3 weeks ago, Neil Ferguson wrote an article titled "Global Population Crash Isn't Sci-Fi Anymore." He wrote about the world's total fertility rate. That's the number of live children the average woman bears in her lifetime, and it has fallen since the 1970s. It's now below what they call the replacement rate. And by the way, it's getting worse. In China, hospitals have stopped newborn delivery services, and we just learned the birth rate in Italy down for the 15th year in a row at a new record low. The world is on a path to a major worker shortage that will result in a deterioration of prosperity, or even worse, a whole lot worse. I'm going to bring in IWF Vice President for Policy, Hadley Heath Manning. And Hadley, you know, I've had this discussion more than once, but it's becoming more acute. Is there a central blame or reason this is happening?
I think it's multifactorial, Charles. Some people will say that it's become more expensive to raise a child, but I don't buy that, because ultimately we've seen many other countries try to make policy changes, try to subsidize having children, try to offer free child care supports, greater welfare programs, paid family leave, and many of those policies haven't failed to turn around the fertility bust that we're talking about. So ultimately, I think the causes are much greater than economic ones. These things find their root in, ultimately, I think, marriage. Many people will have children if they're married. They'll have more children when they're married, and that's the kind of direction that we want to go in. But unfortunately, because so many people are struggling to form families, we're seeing fewer children being born.
I look at a place like Italy, for instance. You would never have thought that this would be a problem there, and yet it is. It's a major problem throughout Europe. China had that one-child policy, and they've tried their best to reverse it. They haven't been able to do that. We know about Japan. And the ramifications I don't think are talked about. Let's talk about some of these ramifications.
Right. Well, for one thing, we're seeing it in the United States. We're an aging population. The population of people over the age of 85 is set to quadruple by 2040. So we're going to see a huge need in elder care. We're going to see a huge amount of spending go towards some of our programs like Social Security and Medicare that fund health care and retirement for our aging population. Meanwhile, on the worker side, you said it, Charles, a worker shortage, a shortage of labor. And to sort of paraphrase Margaret Thatcher, I would say that the problem with our fertility bust in the United States is that eventually we will run out of other countries' laborers. We've been taking laborers from other parts of the world through our immigration policy. We're the most welcoming country in the world. 1 million people come to the United States every year, and they work here. They contribute to our economy. If we don't continue to see that level of immigration, and it's likely that we won't, because the rest of the world is also suffering from this downturn in fertility, then we're going to have to figure out another way to fund these programs that will make payments out in healthcare and retirement to aging citizens.
So it seems the solution would be a baby boom, which I don't know how you spark something like that. We need one desperately. More legal immigration. You're saying, hey, that's going to be tough as nations need their own. Or robots. I mean, it's really tough.
Well, automation certainly is going to take some jobs and transform them for the future. Ultimately, I would like that first option that you mentioned, Charles. I'd like to see more babies being born into the world. I've got a few of my own. And I think, you know, the way we do that is through changing the culture around having families, supporting young families in our communities. If you've got a young family in your life, then, you know, maybe offer to do some babysitting for them this weekend. But showing that level of support to young families in our communities is one way to go.
You know, one thing that I always found interesting whenever anyone talked about the economic aspect is that the poorest countries in the world always have the highest fertility rates, which is intriguing to me. And of course, when we were a much poorer nation, we had higher fertility rates. It feels like the wealthy we are. By the way, we found out today we've never been this wealthy as a nation, and still they say economics. And I'm with you. I think it's something social in a social fabric, and it's worrisome. Hadley, love these conversations with you, although not happy with the topic. Thank you very much. We'll talk again real soon.
Thank you, Charles.
All right, see you.